All right, we're back for more college basketball best bets on the channel here for Tuesday, January 21st. And yesterday was rough. I'm not going to lie. It wasn't our best day at all here on the channel, but we were so close to at least a positive day. We hit some monumental choke jobs yesterday. I mean, the early games did not go our way. William and Mary just got, they got bitched at UNC Wilmington. I'm not going to mince words on that one. Nichols versus Lamar, they were winning at halftime, but they blew it in the second half. Now, the games I'm upset about is Hampton against North Carolina A&T. They're winning that game with 3 minutes to go by 8 points. They end up only winning the game by 1. They were up at halftime by 10. They were always covering that 2.5 points, and then down the stretch, they find a way to only win the game by 1. And probably the most upsetting one's Rutgers at Penn State. Rutgers, the entire game, is pretty much within that plus 6.5. At the very end of the game, Ace Bailey fouls out. Dylan Harper had a horrible game, but I believe Harper misses a 3. There's 4 seconds to go. They're down by 6, are Rutgers. And the line is plus 6.5. They decide to foul. Why? There's 4 seconds left. You're down by 6. If you hit the 3, 100% foul. If you hit the 3, yes, because it's a 3-point game. There's a chance they miss both, obviously. But in a 6-point game, why are you fouling with 4 seconds? Why? And they didn't even get a shot up on the other side. I don't think they shot the ball after Penn State hits both free throws. It's just, I don't know. It should have been a positive day. It really should have. The Hampton game, it is what it is. The Rutgers Penn State one, though, just it blew my mind that happened. Honestly, blew my mind. And then shout out to Mitch Jeter for not hitting that field goal for Notre Dame, not hitting the plus 8.5. Today's a better day. Today's a better day. And folks, if you have not yet, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more daily college basketball best bets here on the channel. It helps out the channel a ton if you just subscribe and leave a like. That's all I ask you to do if you watch these videos on a daily basis. Also, make sure to check out our NBA predictions. That will be dropping in a couple hours. We're posting this video. I mean, you're seeing it, but different time slots today. We're going to go 8 a.m. On the West Coast, obviously 11 a.m. on the East Coast for the college basketball best bets, and then 10 and 1, obviously, for the NBA predictions. Also, yesterday we posted our PFL Nurmagomedov versus Hughes full card predictions. Make sure to check that video out in the description down below. Let's get into the first of our 5 best bets for today, and we're going to start things off here in the Big 12 on ESPNU. Texas Tech goes on down to Cincinnati, Ohio, goes on north to Cincinnati, Ohio, to take on the Bearcats. They are 1.5-point favorites, and we are going to side with the Texas Tech Red Raiders. I like Tech here on the road. All right, we've bet against Cincinnati recently. Their game against Arizona State, we bet on Arizona State to cover. They did, just barely. And we're going to continue to bet against the Bearcats. Cincinnati just picking up their first 2 wins in the Big 12 this season. Win in Boulder against Colorado, a win at home against Arizona State, and now we're going to take the Red Raiders to come into Cincinnati and beat them. Guys, Texas Tech with 2 losses so far in the Big 12, and now the first one against UCF at home, not a great loss. The second one, against Iowa State at home, they only lose the game by 1 point. Other than that, Texas Tech's been really good in the Big 12 this year. Wins at Utah, in BYU. So again, 2 victories, both in, I think Utah's in Salt Lake. I think it is. I believe so. And then in Provo against BYU, I'm pretty sure the Utes are in Salt Lake City. I've only been to Utah once in my lifetime. It was a long time ago. Tech goes to Kansas State and wins. They beat Arizona in their last game. They are a 4-2 team in the Big 12 this season, and they've been pretty solid. Texas Tech is led by JT Toppin, who again is going to be a future NBA player. He is averaging at 16 points a game this year, put up 20 in the victory over Arizona the other night. You get Darian Williams, who's averaging 15.5. Chance McMillan averaging 15. Toppin, though, again, 17-9 on a nightly basis. He is a big-time player for this Texas Tech team. This is a 13-4 team all year long. Earlier in the season, losing to St. Joe's and to Texas A&M, but again in Big 12 play, 4-2. Yes, the UCF loss isn't great, but they're going to Cincinnati here, guys. I don't think the Bearcats are all that good. They're 2-4 in conference. Again, they bounce back after starting conference play 0-4. Good for the Bearcats, right? Back-to-back wins against Colorado and then against the Arizona State Sun Devils. But those are very beatable teams. Colorado is 0-6 in the Big 12 this season, and Arizona State's 1-5. Once they play half-competent teams, they lose. Hell, K-State's 1-5 in conference, And their only victory is Cincinnati. Arizona has been good, obviously, this year in the Big 12. Baylor has been just okay, but Cincinnati goes to Waco. They put up 48 points and lose the game by 20 points. And then when they played Kansas, they just got decimated at home, only putting up 40 points in that entire game. I think it's an incredibly winnable game for Texas Tech, especially when we get somewhat even odds. We have seen teams go into Cincinnati in the Big 12, and we've seen teams win. Cincinnati's 1-2 this year at home in the Big 12. Again, those losses to Arizona and Kansas and the win over Arizona State. But Arizona State, it's not like they're all that impressive. And yes, we had the Sun Devils in that game and they covered. I think, again, a big part of this basketball game, and this guy's been the center of discussion around Cincinnati Bearcats basketball recently, is their senior forward in Simas Lukauskis, obviously from Lithuania. Of course, had a really hot start to the year this year in his senior season, and he's cooled down a ton. Of course, he's had better games. We picked against him in the Colorado game, and he shot fairly well in that one, but he went back to the Arizona State game, scored 10 points, went 2 for 5 from beyond the arc. He still doesn't have his confidence back, and he's not willing to take the amount of shots he was taking prior to the cold streak. Again, to start the year in non-conference play, Simas was great for Cincinnati, but when he's not fully involved in the offense, then we're relying on guys like Dan Skillings, Dylan Mitchell, who are good players, but again, this Bearcats team is at their best when Simas Lukauskis is at his best. And simply put, I don't think he's at his best right now. I know, again, he's had back-to-back better games compared to the complete dry spell he went through in Waco at home against Kansas. I get that. But I still don't think he's 100%. This is still the same player that we saw in the Big 12 tournament this year or last year, and the same guy that we saw earlier in the year this year. So ultimately, that's why I'm taking Texas Tech, because I don't think Cincinnati is going to be able to effectively score in this game. I do think the Red Raiders are going to be able to come in town, and I think they're going to be able to score. This is a team that dropped 93 when they went on the road to Utah. They put up 70 in the Arizona game, whatever. They put up 101 when they played Lamar. I get it, that's a mid-major, but still, Lamar, hell, they got us yesterday against Nicholls State, right? So I don't mind Tech in the spot at all. They're going on the road. I don't think Cincinnati's all that great. Texas Tech's been the better team all year long. We are going to go with JT Toppin and the Texas Tech Red Raiders to go on the road to Cincinnati, Ohio, beat the Cincinnati Bearcats, and cover the 1.5 points as well. We like Texas Tech here on the road against the Cincinnati Bearcats. Let's move on to our second game of the video, and we go to the Southeastern Conference. Got a big game with the Mississippi State Bulldogs and the Tennessee Volunteers on ESPN2 from Knoxville, and we're going with the home team. We've picked a lot of Mississippi State basketball recently. We just have. We picked them again. We picked against them in their last 2 games, and Mississippi State was not able to cover in either of their last 2 games. Auburn at home dominated them, and they played a competitive game against Ole Miss. Of course, they were winning that game big early. The Rebels came back, made it a game, sent it to overtime. Mississippi State won, but of course the Rebels covered. All right, that's fine. Now Mississippi State's back on the road, and I get it. They went to Vandy earlier in the year and won at Vandy. That's great. But again, the last time they played a ranked team on the road, Auburn beat them by 22 points. And I completely understand there is a big difference between Auburn and everybody else in college basketball, maybe the exception of Duke, but there's just a gap. And especially in the SEC, it is Auburn and then there is everyone else. And again, the SEC is an amazing conference this season, but that's just how good the Auburn Tigers are. But Tennessee's good at home. They are a good team at home. On the road, I can't trust the Volunteers. But at home this year, yes, Tennessee's played really good basketball. They are still yet to lose in Knoxville all year long. Their 2 losses are in Florida, where they lost by 30 points. That was a disgusting performance. And then recently, last weekend, they went to Vandy, and they lost 76-75. Not a great performance. But they're back in Knoxville here. This is the last time Tennessee plays before their huge matchup where they got to go on the road to Auburn, Alabama on Saturday. And am I looking at this right? Tickets as low as $540 for this game. Are y'all seeing this? $539 to get in the building? That's insane. That is insane. Standing room only $539. I mean, just watch the game at home at that point. And I love going to sporting events. Wow. Anyways, Tennessee's got to win this game. You got to head into that Auburn game with some momentum. And I just think they're better than Mississippi State. Again, Mississippi State, sure, their only losses are good teams in the SEC. We're going to disregard that Butler loss. Actually, we can talk about it. That's a bad loss to Butler. There's no other way you can put it. But when this team goes on the road, you know, and sure, they've only lost 2 games all season. One loss is at home against Kentucky, but when we saw them against a ranked team on the road, they got embarrassed. And yes, Auburn is on a different level than some of these other teams, but I don't trust Mississippi State on the road here. I really don't. Josh Hubbard, again, kind of like CMOS, not to the same extent. Obviously, Josh Hubbard, a better basketball player, and he's still a sophomore, and he's probably going to be a guy that's going to be league bound at some point just because of his shooting. He's 5'11". I don't know. But played 39 minutes against Ole Miss, their rivals, and he scored 10 points. Like, I don't know. It just depends what Josh Hubbard you get. And yes, he will hit that big time 3 in the game, obviously. Like, he will hit his threes. But how many is he really going to hit? I think he hit 1 against Ole Miss, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, you went 1 for 4. He's hit a 3-pointer in every single game he's played, I believe, at Mississippi State. But again, he's only going to hit 1. He's going to have games where he's going to go 2 for 10, like the Auburn game, right? It's just, I don't know what Josh Hubbard you're going to get. I do think Tennessee's the better overall team. Chaz Lanier, Zakai Ziegler, Jordan Gainey, Igor Milicic. I think this is the better team at home here in this spot. So you're getting, Tennessee is 6.5-point favorites in this basketball game. I expect them to cover that line. I expect them to bury Mississippi State. If Mississippi State is not able to shoot the basketball effectively, which I'm not anticipating them doing, I think Tennessee just buries them in this basketball game. I think the crowd in Knoxville is going to be too much. I think Tennessee at home is going to be too much. And I think the Volunteers get to the Bulldogs in this game. Give me Tennessee at home to cover the 6.5 points and win the game as well. We like the Volunteers at -300 and obviously at -6.5. Let's move on to our next game as we go to the Mid-American Conference. So obviously some big-time basketball. Now we're going to go to another game at 4 o'clock in the Savage Arena in Toledo, Ohio. We've got the Kent State Golden Flashes going on the road to take on the Toledo Rockets. Now again, preseason-wise, and I'll be the first one to say I was the one saying this. Preseason-wise in the Mid-American Conference, I was saying the 2 best teams in the MAC, in my personal opinion, are the Akron Zips and the Kent State Golden Flashes. I think Akron is still the best team in the conference. I think so. Today they go to Buffalo and play. I expect them to win that game to cover. I don't feel great about it, but they should probably blow out the Buffalo Bulls. Kent State hasn't kept their side of the bargain, right? Miami of Ohio has been the other really good team in the Mid-American this season. And then once you go, like, if you break the MAC into tiers, right? I mean, it's Miami of Ohio and Akron, and then it's, Ohio and Toledo. Then there's Kent State, and there's everybody else. But Toledo so far this year, yes, they've played better basketball in the Mid-American than Kent State has. It's that simple. Kent has not been good recently. They played back-to-back home games. They lost both of them to Western Michigan, who that was their first win in the MAC all year long. And then, yes, Miami of Ohio has been playing good ball this year, but the WMU loss is horrible. The Miami of Ohio loss isn't great. And what are their wins in the MAC this year? NIU, who's 0-5 in the MAC. Buffalo, who's 1-4, potentially the second worst team, or the third worst team, just behind Western Michigan and Northern Illinois. And they also lost to Ball State. So here's the thing with the Golden Flashes. With the exception of Miami of Ohio, Kent State's played the worst teams in the Mid-American. And yet they are 2-3. So I think, again, I just don't think Kent State's all that great. Again, we thought they weren't that bad to start the year, at least preseason-wise. We expected a lot more to Kent State. They cashed the first day of the season for us on the road at Louisiana. But this team just hasn't been that good this year. So I don't expect them to go on the road and beat Toledo. Toledo's only loss in the MAC, guys, is on the road at Akron. Other than that, they have won every single game they've played in the MAC. And yeah, we picked Akron to win that basketball game, rightfully so. But Toledo, again, 4-1 in the MAC this year, wins over West Michigan, East Michigan, Central Michigan, and then Ball State on the road. I know, again, they haven't played the elite teams. They haven't beat an elite team yet, but neither has Kent State. And additionally, this game is in Toledo, Ohio. I get it. Toledo and Kent State are very close to each other. We can check right now. We can look at this together, guys. Let's look on a map of Ohio real quick, just so we can know how far they are. Okay, here's Ohio. I should probably search where Kent is. Well, no, Kent's in Cleveland. I know this is by Cleveland. Okay, there's Akron. Kent is somewhere. Here's Kent, this small town. Yeah, Kent and Akron are literally right next to each other. All right, so Kent's here. Where is Toledo? Let's find out. Toledo. Boom. Oh, right. Toledo's like basically Michigan, isn't it? Yes. It's right on Lake Ontario. I think it's Lake Ontario. Lake Erie. Okay, so I mean, this is still like, what, 2-hour drive? Yeah, okay. It's, but it is, it is a trip. It is a trip for Kent State having to go to Toledo to play this game. Toledo led by Sonny Wilson, Sam Lewis, both those guys averaging 15, Javon Simmons averaging 12, Isaiah Adams is going to give you 10 a night for Kent State. Again, they're led by Von Cameron Davis. He's their best player, Jalen Sullinger. But again, I think Toledo's the better basketball team. And on top of that, the game is being played in Toledo. This Kent State team, I don't know if it's been the biggest factor, but they were playing better basketball when their shooting guard Morgan Safford was still in the lineup. Safford's been out since the Portland victory on December 6th. This is a guy who did average 15.5 points per game last year at Miami of Ohio, came to Kent, was playing, all right ball. He was like the third option on this offense, but still, they've been without him for a while. You got to think that's going to make somewhat of a difference. And of course, he's been out this entire time. And sure, again, Von Cameron Davis has been an elite scorer for Kent State this season, but I just think Toledo's the better team. They get this game at home, and Toledo's been playing better ball this year. That's why I'm a little bit confused why they're only 1.5 point favorites in this game, but we're going to take it. -1.5 for the Toledo Rockets, -130 on the money line. I like both. Give me the Toledo Rockets at home against the Kent State Golden Flashes. I just think they've been the better team so far in MAC play, and I think they continue that here tonight. Let's move on to our fourth best bet of the video as we go to the Atlantic Coast Conference between, a team in Texas, obviously, on the Atlantic Coast, and the Louisville Cardinals. I like SMU at home here. I think this is a very competitive basketball game. I think this is sneaky one of the best games of the night tonight. It's on the ACC network at 6 o'clock. You got a game on ESPN like UNC versus Wake Forest, a game I was considering picking, but honestly, that's too tough of a game for me to call. I would like to think Wake Forest wins that game at home, especially considering North Carolina's last game where they lost at home to Stanford, but I can't confidently pick that game either way. It's a rivalry game in the state of North Carolina. I can't pick that one either way. I'm surprised, though, this game gets buried on the ACC network between Louisville and SMU. It's a big-time basketball game. I mean, right now, it's SMU is probably on the bubble or their last four in right now to the NCAA tournament. And Louisville's a team that's 7-1 in conference play this year. Yes, they were shaky non-conference this season, but they have really shown out so far in conference play. They've been excellent, their only loss being at home to the Duke Blue Devils, right? When you look at SMU this season, again, 5-2 as a whole in the ACC. Their losses, though, at UNC and at home against Duke. Again, Duke is probably going to beat almost everyone in the ACC this year. There is going to be a game. I don't think Duke runs the table in the Atlantic Coast this year, but I do think they're the most dominant team in this conference, and that goes without saying, obviously. I mean, who else is there? Clemson and Louisville? Come on. Duke is number one in the ACC, and honestly, it's not all that close. But what has SMU done since back-to-back losses to Duke and North Carolina? And I get it, the ACC is kind of odd this year. There's some bad teams in the Atlantic Coast this year, but they beat Georgia Tech. They went to Virginia and won by 2 points, which isn't impressive, but they went on the road and won, and then they just blew out Miami on the road. And I get it. Miami's absolutely god-awful at basketball this year. They're 0-7 in conference play, and SMU went into town, beat them 117-74. I mean, they completely put belt to ass in that basketball game. I mean, again, it was not a competitive contest. Regardless, though, SMU can score, and they can do that to anyone. I mean, hell, they went on the road to Boston College, who I get has not been great this season, but they go on the road and they put up 103 on them. They have beat Virginia twice this season. And yes, again, SMU has not played the elite teams yet in the ACC, or at least they haven't beat them yet. But this is their chance right here. This is the test to see how good Southern Methodist really is. I mean, seriously, I'm not going to say it's a make or break game. Obviously, there's a lot of basketball left to be played, but this is a crucial game for SMU, at least in trying to get a spot in the NCAA tournament. I mean, this is a big game against a ranked team at home. This is almost one of those types of games where if you're going to get in at large, obviously, and I don't expect SMU to win the ACC tournament, this is a game you kind of have to win. So it's an absolutely monumental game right now for the Southern Methodist Mustangs at home against the Louisville Cardinals. Again, you got to get this one done. I get it. Louisville's been really good so far this year, right? In ACC play, beating UNC, beating Virginia, home win against Clemson. They go on the road to Pitt and win. They go to Syracuse and win. They beat Virginia. Yes, Chucky Hepburn and Louisville have been excellent this season. They've been really good. But I think SMU's able to get it at home. Again, I cannot understate how big of a basketball this game is for SMU tonight. It just is. It's a big-time game, and I'm sure hoping that SMU is treating it that way. led by Boopy Miller, who's averaging 15 points a game. Chuck Harris averages 12.5. Matt Cross, 10. BJ Edwards, 10. I mean, they've got guys on this team who can score. I like Matt Cross. He can score. He can effectively crash the glass. He's not a bad defender either. And Miller has been really good for SMU as well this year, averaging 15 and 6. That will play for the Mustangs. Again, this is a big spot for them. Louisville might be slightly the better team. But I think in terms of, all right, who needs to win this game, who is going to get up to play this game, and who, of course, has home court advantage, everything points to Southern Methodist. This should be an inspired SMU Mustangs team. You get a ranked team coming to town. It almost feels like they gotta get this one done. They are slight favorites against a ranked squad. I am going to take the Southern Methodist Mustangs to win at home here against the Louisville Cardinals. You can take them -1.5. You can take them on the money line. I like both. But again, this is a spot where SMU almost has to rise to the occasion. You know these guys are going to be fired up to play this game. It is the biggest game that SMU has played so far this year, other than the Duke game. But you know what the difference is between that Duke game and this one? They didn't have momentum in the ACC. Sure, they were 2-0 in ACC play, but they're coming off a victory against Longwood. It's before students got back to Dallas. Now, they've won 3 in a row now in the ACC. Students are back. They should be fired up. I'm going to take the SMU Mustangs to win at home and obviously cover as well against the number 25 ranked Louisville Cardinals. To the final game of the night as we move to the SEC once again. We've got the number 22 ranked Missouri Tigers going on the road to take the Texas Longhorns. Kind of a situation like the last one, I'm going to be honest with you, but this time we are going to take the team on the road. I think Missouri is just a better basketball team. I just think they are. And I don't think the game being in Texas makes that much of a difference. I really don't think it does. Again, I think Missouri is better than the Texas Longhorns. Texas is 1-4 this year in the SEC, and I get it. They've played a juggernaut. They have not lost to a team that is not ranked so far in the SEC, and we expect that trend to go the same exact way. Missouri is ranked as well. They are ranked 22nd in the country. Texas, again, their losses this year in the SEC. They start SEC play by losing to A&M by 20 points on the road. They host Auburn, they lose by 5. They host Tennessee, they lose by 4. They go to Oklahoma, they win by 4. They go to Florida, they lose by 24 points. Florida, of course, a very difficult place to play. Just ask the Tennessee Volunteers. I don't think they rise to the occasion, though, against Missouri. I don't think so. And I like the value here. I really do. I like the value for a Missouri team plus 120. They're 4-1 in the SEC this year. Their only losses at Auburn. Sure, they have not played close to the strength of schedule Texas has, but you know what I was saying about going to Florida and trying to play? Well, Missouri went to Florida and won that game as what, plus 10.5 point dogs? They win the game outright. They win it by 1 point. Sure, their other wins in the SEC are, LSU, not great. Vandy, sometimes Vandy can get you. Arkansas. But the Florida victory, we cannot undersell at all. That is a big-time victory for the Missouri Tigers. That's as big as it gets. There is not a bigger road victory in the SEC other than going to Auburn and winning. I mean, that's as good as it gets. Going to the Swamp and winning. I know it's not the Swamp in basketball, but, going to Florida and winning. That's a big deal, right? Missouri led by Mark Mitchell, Tamar Bates, Caleb Grill, Anthony Robinson II. They've got this entire starting lineup can effectively get to the hoop. This entire starting lineup can score. This is an all-around really good team. Caleb Grill has been really good recently. And I'm not going to lie, when you look at Caleb Grill's picture, it looks like this guy is like 40 years old. But the senior out of Wichita, their point guard, has been great recently. 22 in the victory over Florida, 17 in the victory over Arkansas. I like what Missouri's been doing recently. If they can go on the road and beat Florida, they can go on the road and beat Texas. Texas does have scores. They do. Trey Johnson, Arthur, Jordan Pope, like these guys can go off, but obviously Trey Johnson's the leader of this basketball team. Trey Johnson is the best player. The freshman, obviously, averaging 19 points a game this season. He's been excellent. I think Missouri's able to find a way to shut him down. I think they are. I think they're going to find a way. And again, we've seen Missouri go into hostile environments on the road this year and win. Again, Florida is your example. Who's to say they're not going to do the same thing at Texas? They're getting plus 2.5 on the road. I'm fine with it. I'm going to take Missouri again. They have proven they can win on the road. Texas, again, they've just had to play difficult teams. I completely get that. But at the same time, We just don't know how good they are. I get it. They've been competitive against some of these teams. They're really competitive against Auburn when they hosted them, against Tennessee. I get that. But their only win so far this year is Oklahoma, right? This is their only win just yet, right? Again, Texas, we just don't truly know how good they are. Again, you can remain competitive, sure, but until you get that win in the win column, how good are you really? Again, we talk about Tennessee being great. We talk about Auburn being obviously the best team in college basketball, but Missouri has been excellent on the road this year as well. So give me the Missouri Tigers on the road against the Texas Longhorns to cover the 2.5 points and win the game outright as well at plus 120. So folks, thank y'all for watching our 5 best bets for college basketball here on January 21st. If you haven't yet though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Make sure to comment if you do disagree with any of the picks. Make sure to join us for NBA predictions in a couple hours, folks. Thank y'all for watching, and Mamba forever.